Okay, I'm telling my grandson a story about my daddy, Samuel Lewis Ward was his name. My dad used to farm over here, and we lived right there. We lived right there in the house. We had cows and bulls. I used to milk the cow right down there up under that hill. I hated it. Okay, and I got my first whipping from him because I broke the cow's leg. I didn't know a cow didn't know how to go up a hill, down a hill, and I had to go get the cows from down the street there. And so the cow leg broke when it was going down the hill up by Aunt May's house. And my dad had to kill the cow because the cow leg, you can't, they leg couldn't heal. And so that was my first whipping. And then my next whipping was, I was right there where your daddy is standing. And I cleaned out my daddy's car. And so my daddy said, I stuck my hand in the window. You know, they used to have side windows. And so you cannot break in somebody's car. I don't care who they are. And so my daddy had to whip me because he said that's called auto theft. I stuck my hand in that window, and that's how people break into cars. And he had to teach me that you don't do that. Although I did a good deed, the good deed deserved a whipping because I broke into his car. Okay, and so he didn't beat me. He just twitched my legs. And so um, find these are good stories. And right about where your daddy is sitting. Okay, my daddy he had a white man had came over here, and he had went and got the cow, the bull. He was selling the bull to the man. And I got a video with Uncle Ro telling the story also on my YouTube. So my daddy had brought the cow up, but my Uncle Ro had told Daddy they were going to the wrestling to wait on him to get over here. And Willie was coming over here. They were going to help him to get the bull on the truck. No, Daddy was going to do it himself. My daddy, he was just a worker. And so as he was loading the bull onto the truck, him and the white guy was here, and the guy did cows from River Road. So the cow kicked Daddy in the chest. Well, my daddy already had a heart condition, and my daddy had he was on medication for it. My sister Virginia always took him to the doctor. Always took him to the doctor. So when the cow kicked him, the coroner said that Daddy was dead before he even hit the ground. Okay, apparently he had a massive heart attack right there where your daddy is sitting in the chair at. Okay, it was the truck was backed up. They was loading the bull onto the truck, and so Cobb County PD came, but they could not move my daddy, and they could not, the man couldn't leave. The man went down the street and got Mr. Beavers to call Virginia. Okay, apparently Virginia and them had told them if something happened, everybody back in the days, people had people's information. You communicated. Okay, you talked to your neighbors. A neighbor was a neighbor. And so Mr. Beavers came, and Mr. Beavers got in touch with Virginia, but Willie was on his way over here anyway. Chris, my niece, Scoop, your Uncle Scoop. All of them remember because it's in their heads that and I bless Chris because she literally saw her granddaddy. Okay, and Scoop and them saw him laying there. But always remember, a husband and wife is important. They had to get my mama over here too. Okay, because although my mom and daddy were separated, my mom was still married to my daddy. And so one time I was working with the grand jury. You hear me, Fonz? One time I was working with the grand jury. And so I was the bailiff for the grand jury of Cobb County. And we had to go visit the coroner's office. And me, of all people, I tell you, I've done some things. So in the coroner's office, they were talking about the first black man that was embalmed, not embalmed, that was autopsied in Cobb County coroner's office. Guess who that man was?
Your dad?
My daddy. And so, and they started telling, I'm sitting there with all the grand jury. And what the grand jury do is they visit locations to see what they need to improve that site. I did Douglas County, I did the fire department, I did the Austell Fire Department. So they were talking about this black man and not knowing that that was my daddy. And they said they had to come to Ivey Road, Mableton, Georgia. And that they told about how the man had died and how they had to autopsy daddy. Or they had to do the report on daddy. Anytime back in the old days, it was a white man that was here on the property with him. He was a black man. During the days of Dr. King and them civil rights days, that was 1968. They had to keep records and they had to make sure no foul play was involved in it. Well, as he's telling the story, he's saying that they had to make sure that there was no foul play. The man did have the check that daddy had wrote to him. He had wrote to daddy it was in daddy's pocket. And so they was telling the story of how they had to do the autopsy on him. They could not move him for hours. He had to just lay there, right there on the ground until they could, and the coroner had to come from another county. Back then, a coroner could work 3 or 4 counties, more than one county, okay, because you didn't have a lot of them. And so the coroner got here. The coroner, they took him to Wellstar first, I think it was. And so they had to find out about, they had to know the story of what happened. Cobb PD had to know the story of what happened to clear their records. And so as they're sitting there telling the story of how it was a cow, how this happened, how that happened, I'm saying, but I know this story. I'm saying, I know this story. This was my daddy. Okay, so I'm sitting on my job as a bailiff. I was with Kathy and the group. We had bussed the peoples over, and they're telling how, basically what they was telling was how Carnell, if that's how you say it, got started in Cobb County. The cases that they had to find out. They even have bodies that nobody has claimed. And so um, that's how I learned the story of my dad and what literally happened. He was working. That's why I bless these young men that they work. These boys will work. I love it. All my nephews. Y'all hear me? My nephews work. Your daddy works. Your daddy is a worker. My nephew Diedrich, Thomas, Keith, Calvin, Steve, Jason, them cousins, they have the hush. They work and they love them children. You are loved. You are loved, my grandson. That young man sitting right there, my son, will give his life for you. He loved his son. Grandma. I done bragged on all y'all. I know. Okay. And what D just said is you my nephews will go for you too. You don't mess with my nephews and our children. Our children is our fruit. That's what he's saying. We love our children. That's why you always bring them back to the homeland. Okay, and how you heard your daddy telling the story about the whale and the what they remember. Okay, they tell the story. They know, and how he said as Ma house. Ma was my mom. How he tell that was Ma house. That was Ma and Daddy's house. Okay, you you always gain a love for family, and I loved my daddy. I loved my mama. Okay, and when my mom got here, nobody could go in that house. Nobody could get that check. Nobody could get anything because the law my mom was his wife, his legal wife. They weren't divorced or nothing. Okay, so and I video stuff, so you can always go back and hear that you have a root. That's why grandma's so hard on you, and grandma's, be tough, do the right thing. Uh-huh. I had some. Mine's is cold. So always remember that story. And you can always go to grandma pages and hear. I like history.